Hey everyone, my name's Taylor. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read last month in June and also my TBR for July. So first of all, before I get started into all that, I really want to give a huge shout out and thank you to book lover Amanda. She did a Instagram story where she talked about how you can have the camera not mirror so that things that have words don't appear backwards, which was my issue with my first two videos because I had no idea and I was manually flipping the camera so I couldn't see myself, so I had no idea the camera angles were off until I filmed the whole thing several times. And so I saw that on her Instagram story, and I was like, thank you. I needed that so much. I don't know why I didn't need, technology can be great. I don't know why I didn't think that was possible before. Thank you, Amanda. So the first book I read in June was Waves of Mercy by Lynn Austin, and this book was so good. It's about two women, and the first one, Anna, she is in her early 20s. This book is set in late 1890s for her portion of the book, but she is a new believer. Not necessarily a new believer. She grew up going to church, but it was very surface level, and she ends up finding this other church that is really preaching the gospel and showing what Jesus truly is. And so she is kind of just now coming to salvation, basically. And so it's about her story and how her family and her fiance don't like that she is kind of going against their norm and really trying to learn what the Bible actually says and how to live as a true Christian. And so she is sent to this hotel on Lake Michigan to basically sort of have a timeout, basically. Her family put her in a timeout, I guess, because her fiance broke off the engagement because she didn't want to stop going to this church. So anyways, it's about her faith's journey and kind of figuring all that out for herself and really learning the Bible and things like that. So I loved Anna's story because I felt a connection to her because I'm also in the beginnings of my walk in my faith as well, and learning what the Bible means and how to live that life and all of that. So I really, really loved that aspect of her story. The other character in this book is a Dutch American. Her name is kind of hard to say. Yeestje, I think it is. I listened to the audiobook and they pronounced it so much better than I just did, but I think that's sort of how you say it. But anyways, she is one of the first settlers in this small town near Lake Michigan, right near where this hotel that Anna's at. And so it's set in current times for them. She's an older lady at this point, and the town is about to celebrate, I think they're 50 years or 100 years or something. They're celebrating their founding, and they're wanting the original settlers to write their story and how, you know, the town came to be. So it's current times, and she's writing her story, and so it flashes back 50 years. Yes, 50 years ago. That wouldn't be possible, 100 years, so that makes sense. Duh. So it flashes back 50 years. This is what she's written. Her story is incredible, how difficult it was to move all the way from the other side of the world, how it challenged her faith, and how the many hardships that she faced. And I don't know, it was just such a good faith book too. There are so many things in here that really explain things for me, which is really what I want out of Christian fiction. I want a good enjoyment story, but I also want it to impact my faith as well, help me think about things differently and things like that. So I really wanted to, since I only had 2 books, I thought I could read you a couple of my favorite quotes because there were so many good quotes in this book. I'll read just two of them. People in the settlement, some of their children died. This is Just Yeast. She's giving comfort to these people. And what she said is just beautiful. No matter what, don't ever stop trusting him. I believe that God is as grieved over your baby's death as we are. He created us and gave us life on this beautiful earth because he wanted us to live here for eternity. But death entered this world when Adam and Eve sinned. Now we feel pain and grief each time a loved one dies because we know it isn't right. God knows it isn't right too. That's why he sent his son to die in our place so that death would be destroyed and we would have eternal life. Keep your eyes on the cross and you'll know that you can surely trust him. I thought that was beautiful. And I know grief is very hard, and I love that. And then there was one more, and that's again about loss. So there's a lot of loss in this book. God began lovingly wooing us back to his side through the countless small acts of kindness that his family showered on us. We weren't able to understand why he had taken a character that I'm not going to name because it's a spoiler, but slowly, step by step, as our grief lifted, he reassured us that one day we would understand. Death wasn't the end, but only a new beginning, the way an infant must leave its mother's womb to begin a new, light-filled life. So beautiful. And there was another quote which I could not find, and when I read it, I was like, whoa. It was something to the effect of children are gods. We are stewards of God's children. So like parents are stewards of God's children here on earth. They are ours, but they're truly his, and he gives us the privilege, the joy, the responsibility, the gift of taking care of them. So it was that sentimentality. They said it a lot more beautiful than that, but I thought it made me think about children differently and how, things are not always in our control, but God is in control. And I love it. So, anyways, so this book is so good, and there's only a couple of things that kind of annoyed me, but it also made the story good. So, and then the book ended on kind of a cliffhanger, and again, shout out to book lover Amanda, because I was watching her video and she mentioned that there's book 2, and I didn't know there was a book 2 because I was like, wow, I want closure, man. But there is a book 2, so I'll mention that later. But I think I'm going to bump it up to a 5-star actually, because the only reason why I gave it a 4.5 is because I felt like I didn't have closure, and that's before I knew that there was book 2. So 5 stars in this book, highly recommend. All right, the second book was Bookshop by the Sea by Denise Hunter, and y'all know I read both of these books basically for the most part while I was at the beach. I loved the setting of the ocean while you're at the beach. So this is about a second chance romance, the second chance romance trope. It's about Sophie and Aiden, and they were in a relationship 7 years ago, and Aiden left her, broke up with her to pursue his career, and Sophie was left behind to deal with some family things where she was kind of like the glue holding the whole family together, and they dealt with some really difficult things. And so now he came back for her sister's wedding. He's the best man to the groom, obviously. And so they meet again, and they are thrown together, and it's their romance story. And also during this time, Sophie is finally able to pursue her dream of opening a bookshop by the sea. And so it's her opening up this bookshop and trying to get it ready, and things happen and some challenges show up, and it feels like she can't get it ready in time. So there's also that aspect of it too. And that was honestly my favorite part, was hearing about the bookshop, because hello, Bookshop by the sea, so cute, like the way it's pictured. And I'd love to live in an apartment above my bookshop that's near the sea. Like, how awesome would that be? But I did love that aspect of it, and their romance was really cute. So this is a cute, like, light read, you know, a perfect beach read, and I rated it. I'm having trouble with rating things lately. It's a little bit better than a 3, so I guess 3.5. Like, I really did enjoy it. It was fun. Like, it wasn't just average, it's a little bit above average. So 3s for me are average, so I'd say 3.5. So I do recommend it. So I did want to mention that I am trying to read the Bible for the first time, and it's really slow going because I'm trying to understand as best as I can. And it's taken me a while to get through the first book because I'm trying to go chronologically, because I think that's how my brain will process it better, if I can see how things line up and fit together. So I finished Genesis, and yay, it's my first ever book of the Bible that I've completed, and I loved it. I just love seeing how Jesus is, even in the very first book of the Bible, like talking about how I think it was, and I'm going off of memory here, so it's talking about how the serpent and the serpent's curse, and basically referencing Jesus. So even then, like, he was in the plan, and you know, how he keep, like, the two lines, like the perverted line, and then Jesus's line eventually, but God's people's line, and how they are parallel and they're going two opposite directions. Even God's line, they are still full of sin because sin entered the world, and how God keeps providing his mercy, even with, like, Noah and the ark, and how he remembered his covenant with them. He didn't forget. He fulfilled his end of the bargain, even though the people didn't. He is always faithful. We aren't, because of sin. And then one of my favorite books of the Bible, because I know several biblical stories, but I wasn't truly Christian until this year. But I have always loved the story of Joseph, and reading that again and kind of learning his story from my perspective now as a Christian, it was really special. And how it parallels Jesus, like, wow. I listened to a sermon on that, and how he was the favored son, and how he had 12 brothers, 12 disciples, how he was given up as a sacrifice, basically, and he came back and was Lord of all. Like, or not, Jesus was Lord of all, but Joseph was, you know, over everything. Like, all the parallels. Like, I think there was, like, I think the pastor I listened to said, like, there was like 100 and something, and he only could cover a few. But I was like, wow, no wonder I like the Joseph story so much. So anyways, I did finish Genesis, if anybody even remotely cares. So I am going to keep going through, and next is next is Exodus. Hey, this is Feature Editing Taylor here. I forgot to introduce the next part of my video, which is my TBR for July. And I also forgot to mention 2 of the books I want to read. So the first one is Gentle and Lovely by Dane Ortland. And this one I had wanted to pick up last month, but I didn't quite get to it. So there were some live shows done on Krista's channel, Books and Jams. So I want to go back and watch those as well, because I've heard really good things about the book, and then there was really good discussions on the live shows. So I want to pick that up. And then also the second book I forgot to mention was the sequel to Waves of Mercy, which is Legacy of Mercy by Lynn Austin. So back to the original video. The next one I'm going to pick up is The Mark of the Raven by Morgan L. Is it Buss or Busse? Buss? Anyways, so this is a fantasy novel, a Christian fantasy novel. And before I was a Christian, like, fantasy was my jam. Like, I love fantasy. I love how the worlds that people's imaginations come up with, like, wow. So that's my favorite genre, but I've been kind of shying away from it because I don't want to, I really want to see the Christian side of things, like Christian books. So when I heard that there's Christian fantasy, I was like, I have to check it out, and hopefully, I hope that this is good. So I'm going to read a little bit of the back. Lady Selene is heir to the House of Ravenwood and the secret family gift of dreamwalking. As a dreamwalker, she can enter a person's dreams and manipulate their greatest fears or desires. Soon after the gifting, however, Selene discovers that the Ravenwood women have been secretly using their gift to gather information or to assassinate those responsible for the fall of the House of Ravenwood to the Dominia Empire hundreds of years ago. So there's more, but I love fantasy, so I'm really excited to try a Christian fantasy book, and I really hope I like it. I've got a contemporary romance book, The DoOver by Bethany Turner. When I was gathering these books together to do this video, I realized for the first time that this is the same author as William Katie McCaffrey, which I really enjoyed. I read it in May, and I'm really intrigued, and the cover is so cute. This is really close to my favorite color, actually. Career-driven McKenna Keaton has devoted her life to attaining the senior partnership at her law firm, so asking a man on a date should be nothing. But the past 4 days have been the worst of her life and have called everything she thought she knew about herself into question. Besides, she can't remember her last real date, one that didn't involve using a blind date as an opportunity to get a stranger's perspective on effective cross-examination techniques. So I think this is a second chance romance. I think it's from somebody in her high school that done her wrong and they're getting back together, or it's a story about their second chance romance. So I think it looks really cute in summary, so we'll see if I get to it. Also want to try to get to The Lady of Galway Manor by Jennifer Dybel. So this is about a family in the 1920s, Annabeth specifically, during the War of Irish Independence, and her and this man, Stephen, will discover the bonds of true friendship, love, and loyalty. I can't read half of the back cover because the library book sticker is covering up a lot of it, so I've just heard it's good. So I love historical fiction, so why not? The last book I want to get to is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. It is a classic, and it's about Margaret. She is the daughter of a clergyman, and her dad is feeling conflicted about being a clergyman, and he decides to resign and accept a tutoring position in the North. So her family has been living in the South, in the idyllic English South, where it's really picturesque and beautiful and just one of the perfect places to be, according to the description. She and her family have to move up north, where it is the poster child basically for the Industrial Revolution. It's very cold and dirty and, lots of poverty and just a really hard place to live. And so she meets this mill owner called Mr. Thornton, and he's actually her dad's employer, and so it is their romance. And like I said, I've read the book once before and I enjoyed it. I really love the BBC TV show. It is gorgeous and I love it. So I'm hoping that the book is as good as I remember, or maybe I might be tainted by how good the TV series is. So I want to revisit it and see what I think now, a couple years later. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you're going to be reading this July and what you enjoyed this past month in June, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.